Morant with a running start. It dunks! Oh my goodness! Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn. His heat is gone! Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it! A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance. Adams going long. Morant! He hit it! John Morant, insanity!
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. The bulk of today's episode is going to be with Andrew Schlecht. We're going to rank the Western Conference teams after the first few days of free agency. But before we get to Andrew, there are just a few news items worth going over. First of all, as of this recording, Luke Kennard has still not signed a new contract with the Grizzlies. Luke Kennard, of course, is an unrestricted free agent. He can sign anywhere he wants, but the reporting has been, the expectation has been, that Luke Kennard will return to the Grizzlies on a restructured deal. Basically, every big and wing target that I wanted, that I identified as players I'd be happy with, they've all signed. Every one of them, by the way, also signed for the mid-level exception or less. So, just to be clear, all of those options were things the Grizzlies could have done had they wanted to. As of now, again, Wednesday, July 3rd, no new update on Luke Kennard and his status as possibly being a member of the Memphis Grizzlies next year. As far as the Grizzlies' other involvement in free agency news, basically the only rumor we've gotten is a report from Kelly Iko of The Athletic saying that Daniel Tice has drawn interest from the Grizzlies, Pelicans, and Bucks. Daniel Tice, a name I've mentioned a few times as a useful, big option that the Grizzlies could bring in. He can shoot a little bit, but not really. But mainly, he's just a really good defender. He's a proven NBA veteran. Also, won a world championship on Germany last summer. Speaking of FIBA basketball, Santi Aldama playing for the Spanish national team in Olympic qualifiers. He had 17 points and 9 rebounds as Spain rolled over Lebanon. Summer Santi remains a fierce force to be reckoned with. And the final, bit of rumor/news involving the Grizzlies is Draymond Green made a splash on social media by saying that last summer he was planning on joining the Grizzlies. He told, apparently, the Warriors he was going to join the Grizzlies. This is before they worked out a 4-year, $100 million contract for him to stay on the Warriors. I'm not exactly sure how that would have worked out. By what mechanism could the Grizzlies have brought Draymond Green onto the team? Of course, they could not have signed him outright with cap space or anything. Draymond, the player, would have been an amazing basketball fit on the Grizzlies. Draymond, the player, would still be an amazing basketball fit on the Grizzlies. How would that go over with the fan base? How would that go over with me? Not ideal. Perhaps I could work through it. But Draymond telling us this story. Who knows how much truth is in it. Also, by the way, as an aside, wouldn't swapping Draymond Green for Marcus Smart make both the Warriors and Grizzlies rosters make a ton more sense? Anyways, just something to think about. All right, so now let's bring on Andrew. Just before I do, I want to say a thank you to Alan, Kuldar, and Carlos for joining my Patreon at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Those guys gained access to the listener Slack channel. They also get access to a monthly bonus episode. They can play fantasy basketball with me next season. You can also get all that stuff for just $5 a month. So if you want to access those features and help support the creation of this show, do it at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right, now let's bring on Andrew Schlecht of the Athletics NBA show, also a world-renowned Thunder podcaster. Andrew, how's it going?
It's going great. I honestly didn't know that this was going to be Grits and Grinds before.
This is the flagship now, Andrew.
This is amazing. I feel honored.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds.
I'm a Grits and Grinds listener.
Yeah.
And so I'm honored. This is my first time on Grits and Grinds. I don't even know what to say.
You should be honored. This is a risk though I'm running. I got to say, because I'll be real, the listeners not interested in outside opinions, and to hear from a Thunder fan. I mean, you're a smart NBA analyst. You cover the whole league. And I do want to get your perspective, but also, so like, that's going to be risky for me. Also, on today's episode, we're going to rank the Western Conference as of July 3rd, the morning of July 3rd. Still plenty of things that can be done by these rosters before opening night. The Grizzlies at some point are going to apparently bring back Luke Kennard, but who knows? Maybe Brandon Ingram's going to get traded in the West. So who knows? But the risky thing is we're going to rank these teams, and I feel like I'm putting my YouTube thumbs up percentage at extreme risk, because anytime I say the Grizzlies aren't the best team, the thumbs all start going down. So it's a risky thing I'm doing.
Thunder are, then boy,
and they don't want to hear it. But anyways, I think it'll be fun. I think it's a worthwhile exercise. I thought maybe hearing an outside voice would help maybe, I don't know, balance the scales. Because here's the thing, I have been openly critical of the Grizzlies offseason. Yeah. And if they do just bring back their top 13 from last year and then add 2 rookies, I'm going to be openly critical of that. But however, I said this last episode, I still think when healthy, the Grizzlies are one of the best teams in the West. So maybe there's going to be some pushback from you. But anyways, let's get right to it. Let's not mess around. Right now, Wednesday morning, July 3rd, on paper, which team is the best Western Conference team?
I'm going to have to be a super homer and say I think the Thunder are the number 1 team. They were number 1 in the West last year. They got better. They eliminated their...
Okay. First of all, I'm going to, my style. I'm going to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
They finished first in the regular season and like skin of their teeth. So, I mean...
Absolutely. That's true.
Like there were the Nuggets... Timberwolves were also right there, and they did not win the West. So I just want to, I want to couch that when someone just throws out the number 1 team in the West last year.
Yes, it's true.
Okay.
And they needed Wemby to help them there at the end of the season.
They also needed that Chris Paul left-handed floater that was not quite. Also, they needed Devontae Graham game winner, a Kyrie Irving game winner. These are all famous Nuggets losses that knocked them out of the 1 spot. Okay, of course, they finished first in the West. They lost to the Mavericks because Derek Jones Jr. and PJ Washington made all their shots. But now, continue. I'm sorry to interrupt.
And they essentially replaced Josh Giddey with Alex Caruso and Gordon Hayward with Isaiah Hartenstein. Those are pretty big upgrades for the Thunder. They have good depth, and they're one of those teams that's just going to get better with age. And like you know this as a Grizzlies fan, like these guys, they just get better because they get more experience. They learn how to play in the NBA. They learn how to play together. And so I think that just because of the depth and then the talent at the top and how well it meshes together, I would put them at number 1.
So I'm not going to argue with you. I think, it looks like, I think there's a few teams at the top of the West, but it seems easy, and we don't need to nitpick. It seems easy to place the Thunder at the top, like you said. I mean, they added basically last year's team outside key contributor Gordon Hayward, basically last year's team plus Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. The one concern I have as an outsider, I don't know if you echo this concern, is their offense going to be good enough? Because like if you play Chet and Hartenstein, and like Dort had a great offensive year last year for him, but like, can Shea and Jalen Williams, is that enough offense? Probably it's enough offense to beat the 1 seed again, but like, what about the postseason?
I don't think that that's how they'll start.
Yep.
I think that they'll play those 2 together to start. I think they'll still have Chet at the 5. I honestly don't know what direction they'll go, because I do think that Alex Caruso can defend big wings. He's shown the ability to do that through the years.
Oh, this is like the Marcus Smart corollary. Oh, that's our 3. He can guard big wings.
Yeah, pretty much. You have J-Dub as your 4. You have Dort and Caruso out there together with Shea.
Yep.
And so I think that will provide you enough shooting and playmaking.
Yep.
And I think they'll probably play Hartenstein with Chet 10-ish minutes a game, 12 minutes a game, and then give Hartenstein the backup minutes where he plays like 20 to 25 minutes per game is probably what that will be.
Yeah.
And that was like one of their weakest points too. Is like when Chet's off the floor, the other Jalen Williams comes in, and he's a fine player, but the defense drops off a cliff. The offense is inconsistent, I would say. But Hardenstein, I think, helps a ton. And he's also a great rebounder, which Jay Will is not.
The other thing, maybe bolstering the Thunder's case, and this is going to be something we could maybe theoretically say for a lot of teams, the Thunder aren't done, maybe necessarily. They could, maybe they wait to the trade deadline. They could still add maybe some kind of sweet shooting 4 or 3, like maybe they want to bring home Jeremy Grant, or they go get a Cam Johnson, or just some kind of offensive boost to even further make the team better. But anyway, we both basically agree. It looks like the Thunder on paper are the best. I think they're pretty close maybe to the other top teams, but who's your number 2 squad in the West right now?
I know everyone just wants to crap on the Nuggets, but I still think the Nuggets are going to be really good.
Yep.
I think Jokic is still the best player in the NBA.
Yeah.
And I think that they have enough. And people just kind of make fun of them and their young guys, but legitimately one of these young guys could pop this year.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't know. And so to me, to just say that, like, oh, for sure, like, oh, the Julian Strawther thing was a mistake. Jalen Pickett, Hunter Tyson, whoever it is, that I think there's a good chance that one of those guys pops. And if they do it, they're going to be fine. And especially in the regular season, this is going to be one of the better teams in the league. They still have their top guys. I know losing KCP is a big deal, and replacing him is not going to be easy, but I still believe in this Nuggets team to be great in the regular season, and depending on matchup, can get back to the finals again.
I think the Nuggets are sorry. No, they're not. They're going to be fine. Jokic won like 50 games with Facundo Campazzo and like a dying Will Barton and Austin Rivers or something. I feel like I think Jokic is going to win 50 games, period. But I do think where you have optimism that the young guys are going to pop, I don't believe it as much. I'm more of like, I think you could put any number of the best 300 players in the world around Jokic and they'd win 48 games. Yeah. But I don't think they're good NBA players. And I think losing KCP was kind of inexcusable. Especially on the heels of not paying for Bruce Brown, especially on this pattern of them paying picks for like years now to move players to dodge the luxury tax. So I don't have the Nuggets as my number 2 team right now. I have the Mavericks as my number 2 team in the West, the team that beat your team, the Thunder, in the playoffs last year. I do, and I pointed this out on Fast Break Breakfast earlier this week. I do maybe think their additions are being overrated. I don't think it's a massive jump going from Josh Green, Derek Jones Jr., and Tim Hardaway Jr. to ancient Klay Thompson and Najee Marshall and Quentin Grimes. For me, that's like a moderate move. I also feel like they really took off last year with their defense, and that's a backwards move, I think, for their defense.
Yeah, totally.
And I don't necessarily buy this kind of hipster take that Najee Marshall is one of the best wings available this summer. Like, he was the 10th man on the Pelicans last year. And for me, I'm like, let's slow down on Najee Marshall. Let's see him play.
Well, overrate his versatility for sure, I would say.
Like, he's a guy. Would I have been happy if the Grizzlies signed him? Yes, because we need a guy. We need just a guy who could defend some people, who's 6'7", 6'8", and make some threes. Is he clearly better than Derek Jones Jr.? I don't think so, but I don't know. Next to Luka, he might look great. But even all that being said, I think I have the Mavericks right now on paper better than the other guys in the West, which is, like the Nuggets, your team, the Nuggets. Who's your number 3? I won't force your hand, but so you had Nuggets number 2. I had Mavericks number 2. Who's your 3?
I have the Timberwolves 3.
Very fair. That is my, I've got them 4. I've got Nuggets 3. So there we go. What's your thought on the Timberwolves?
I mean, best defense by a mile last year.
Yep.
And improving Anthony Edwards, who is still outrageously young and a guy that can improve. I think they're going to keep the team together. I think the question was like, are they even going to be able to keep these guys together, like their top guys? And it seems like they are.
Well, they couldn't keep Kyle Anderson.
How do you feel about that?
Let's have it a little aside. How do I feel about Kyle Anderson and DeAnthony Melton teaming up again? My two basically favorite Grizzlies players of the past 10 years. It's very odd. I feel very strange about it. Am I going to be incredibly optimistic about the Warriors when we get to them in a second? Yes, I am. No, it's so odd. It's weird.
Yeah.
That like, I mean, first of all, the Warriors, who Andre Iguodala told me 2 years ago, they were confused why DeAnthony Melton didn't play more in the 2022 playoffs against them.
Yeah.
The Warriors getting these old Grizzlies guys makes me feel strange. I like the fact that they took away Clay, who I don't like as much anymore, and replaced him with guys I love. They're one Draymond Green away from being one of my favorite teams of all time. So I don't know what the odds of that are. But anyways, no, I feel weird. But I was making a joke. I don't think the Timberwolves will miss Kyle Anderson that much unless they have some kind of injury, because he was always the perfect injury replacement whenever one of the bigs went down.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think this Timberwolves team is one that needed, I mean, they got a ton of experience last year in the playoffs. Edwards is 22.
That worries me when I look at my team in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
Like they're depending some on Rob Dillingham to like pop to help them to maybe give them an extra boost to improve from last year. But also Anthony Edwards could be on that superstar track where he just becomes better and better and actually fulfills his destiny of being the next Michael Jordan, like everyone says. So yeah, like that scares me. So do you have the Mavericks fourth, or do you have somebody else fourth?
I do have the Mavericks fourth.
All right. So I would say, not to be critical of us, I think we're pretty close to consensus, and we're also close to what the sports books are saying as of early July. It looks like the best four teams in the West right now, in some order: Thunder, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Mavericks. So now, unless you had a lot you wanted to say about the Mavericks, let's get to the interesting, because now I think we've hit this clump.
Yeah.
Like there might be 8 teams who are like, whose fan bases are at least are saying, you know what, we're the 5th best team in the Western Conference. And Andrew, I'll start.
Yeah.
I think the Grizzlies, when healthy, are the 5th best team in the Western Conference. I think on paper, even if we aren't doing anything, even though if we've tied our hopes to a 7'4" 9th pick in the NBA draft, on paper, I'm like, man, we're good. Like I would trust us over a lot of these other teams, but that's me. I'm the hometown Grizzlies podcaster. Who do you think right now is the 5th best team in the Western Conference?
It's so tough. Like this is the clumps. This is the Eddie Murphy zone for sure. Part of me bakes in the fact that I think the Kings could go do something else.
Right.
Like I think Sacramento, they have continuity. That is another team that I'm considering here. Phoenix, as much as we love to make fun of Phoenix, like they still have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant.
Phoenix stinks. All right. I have a long running rivalry with Phoenix. Sorry. Okay. No, it's fair. Yeah. When healthy, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, great, amazing players.
Yeah. If New Orleans can find somebody that's 7 feet tall to play on their team, I think they'll be in really good shape too. They don't have any centers on their team besides Yves Missi, who, God bless him, I just don't know if he's ready to do this. You know what? I've been a Grizzlies believer.
No, you can't pick the Grizzlies. You got to pick somebody else.
Why not?
You think the Grizzlies are the 5th best team? That's preposterous. They can't rebound. They can't score in the half court. When they played last year without Ja Morant, they were garbage.
Well, yeah.
Everyone pretends they tanked all year. They were 6-19 when they weren't tanking at the beginning of the year. When Marcus Smart doesn't. I'm pushing back. That's all. We can't be all consensus saying, "Hell, we're the 5th best team in the West right now." No, if you want to pick them, that's fine. But I feel like
they're in the clumps. I'll go Sacramento.
Okay, that's a terrible pick.
De'Aaron Fox had a great season. As its opponents, Keegan Murray, I think, is going to improve. I just have to believe they're going to try to upgrade this Harrison Barnes space for them. And if they do, they really started to figure stuff out at the end of the season as well.
Yeah.
Keon Ellis in the starting lineup. I think that he really helped.
You can't say Keon Ellis is why the Kings are better than the Grizzlies.
He was a maniac at the end of
whatever.
He was. I saw it.
That's podcaster brain, Andrew. I think, all right, so my pushback I think the Kings are going to be good. I think the Kings absolutely could win 50 games. Again, I think they might have been a good team. Even if the Kings turn Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes into Brandon Ingram, pretty good. But I'm not trusting that fit of Fox and Sabonis. And I think they're limited by Fox and Sabonis being their best two players.
Yeah.
And I think I would, if I were a betting man, I would think the odds of the Suns advancing in the playoffs makes more sense to me. But anyways, I'm just badgering you. But
we just entered the zone of hey, if this is how it felt,
yeah,
4 or 5 matchup, Mavs Kings. I'm picking the Mavs every single day.
Yeah. I got you.
Know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we have entered the zone of teams that will not be favored to win a playoff series.
I'm going to go ahead and say this zone of teams right now, we're thinking about the Suns, and we're thinking about the Grizzlies, and we're thinking about the Kings, and you said the Pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also maybe throwing the Lakers into this clump. I could be talking to the Warriors because they just signed my 2 favorite players. The Clippers mainly. Are we to spoil our hand or to give away the rest of it? We're not including the Rockets, Spurs, Trailblazers, or Jazz in this clump, or are you? We think those are still a tier beneath.
I can't include the Spurs yet.
Right.
The Rockets are interesting. I think
they're interesting.
They're on the tail end of this. They're maybe Sherman Clump's little brother who does the Hercules thing. He's in there. He's not Eddie Murphy, but he's in there. Yeah. I would say they're close. They could make a jump. They could seriously make a jump that you don't foresee. You're suddenly the Rockets are the 5th best team in the West. I could see that happening. They've got the talent there. It's just, can they put it together quick enough?
Yep. And they have so many options of just young guys who could theoretically pop. Some teams were Keegan Murray is the one guy on the Kings, or Keon Ellis. You're well, that guy's got to make a big leap to make the Kings better. The Rockets have a lot of avenues where it's Jabari Smith Jr. could make a leap, or Asar Thompson could make a leap, or Reed Shepherd could show up and be great from day one, or Jalen Green could be amazing. They have all these different guys, so maybe one of those guys will hit. And of course, they seem to have the pieces to make a big trade.
And they
want to. Yeah.
They're motivated to. Yeah.
But if we're playing it safe, I think right now, and if the way I'm doing my power rankings is essentially not even regular season record. I'm still thinking more about the postseason, teams that could win playoff series. I'm not putting the Rockets up there yet. I would take, after my Grizzlies, I'd take the Suns just because they have Devin Booker and they have Kevin Durant. I do think they're secretly not that great, and they're a year older. And Kevin Durant, much like a lot of the West, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, LeBron James, great players, just getting older and older and worse and worse. The Suns had a healthy Nurkic last year. He's a year older, and I don't know if they'll get a healthy Nurkic again. But still, if I'm going to pretend my Grizzlies team is totally healthy, if I pretend the Suns are totally healthy, I think they're a very good team. So I would put the Suns 6th. Who do you want to do for your 6th team? Or you're allowed to put the Grizzlies here now.
I'm putting the Grizzlies there.
Okay.
I don't know if that I believe in a 34-year-old Mason Plumlee being backup.
I saw someone say the Suns have the best collection of passing centers in the NBA. And I was like, Nurkic is a solid passer. Mason Plumlee. They all have that Nuggets pedigree.
That is quite a spin.
I was like, well, are we talking about if you consider you throw out the best one, you throw out the best result, DeAndre Jordan's a pretty terrible passer. So, okay, that hurts the Nuggets rankings. But anyways, the Rockets with Şengün and Steven Adams, that's pretty sweet right there. Those are better passers than the Suns. But no, the Suns have a lot of work to do. They do seem to be the one team brave enough to go into the second apron. They paid Grayson Allen. They paid Royce O'Neal to give themselves some options to make trades, or just the very least to have some players around there. They're going to have that David Roddy third-year jump. Yeah.
Shout out David Roddy.
Shout out David Roddy. All right. So I don't have the Kings yet. I'm sure I got to put them. You don't have the Suns yet. So you have Thunder, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Mavericks, Kings, Grizzlies. Who's your seventh team?
I think this is where I'll put New Orleans.
Okay, Pelicans.
Yeah. And they obviously need health is like the biggest factor for them. But I like the DeJounte Murray trade for them. I think that he helps solidify that spot. I just don't think that CJ McCollum is supposed to be that guy for anybody. Yeah. And I think DeJounte can fill that role for them pretty well. And I'm still curious, like, are they going to trade Brandon Ingram? I feel like they're in need of trading a guy like Brandon Ingram or somebody on their roster to get a big man, to get more depth. I think that's still on the way. But I like this team. I think that they're well coached, and I think they have some pretty decent depth as well. So
yeah, I don't think this team having Brandon Ingram or not changes their ceiling as currently constructed. Like, I like their team right now without Brandon Ingram almost as like, oh yeah, like that. Again, they're a huge if healthy team because of Zion. But like, if healthy, you're like, oh yeah, the team could win 50 games with or without Brandon Ingram. If they turn Brandon Ingram into a contributor that fits, if it is like a big Jared Allen trade. There's a lot of talk about, there was some rumors about them getting Wendell Carter Jr. The Magic have kept all their players. They don't need all those bigs. Like, they kept Gogo Batadze and Mo Wagner, players I wanted on the Grizzlies to be my fourth big. But like, if they pick up something like Wendell Carter Jr., that I think obviously improves them. I don't know what the trade would be with the Kings. If you bring back Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter and turn those guys into, it seems like maybe the biggest need is a big. But yeah, the Pelicans look like they're going to be pretty good. And of course they seem to be much like the Rockets, willing and motivated that they're going to make a trade to make their roster make a little bit more sense. Who's your next team? Who's your eighth team?
That's probably where I put Phoenix.
Okay.
I don't love Phoenix.
None of the LA teams get mentioned yet.
No, not yet.
Okay.
I think next is where I'll put the Lakers.
Okay. So Phoenix 8, Lakers 9th. The Lakers, apparently, as of this recording, LeBron announced he's going to, re-sign, which is not surprising, but it actually puts him into the second apron because they gave Bronny James a guaranteed contract. And so now LeBron's like, oh, I guess I'll take a little bit less so we can keep this 55th pick, who I may or may not be related to. It's great stuff. Great stuff, LA. I
love the NBA. It's so great.
I do. So my worry about the Lakers, if I'm looking at it from a Grizzlies fan perspective, is it does seem like they're going to find a way to maybe get DeMar DeRozan. And it's not a ideal fit on paper, but getting DeMar DeRozan over somebody who stinks, like giving Taurean Prince's minutes to DeMar DeRozan, I think makes the Lakers pretty good. So like that part of it worries me.
Yeah. Yeah. DeRozan is actively a bad fit with LeBron, but he can still get buckets. And if he wants to be in LA, like I agree, he'll help you. He's would be one of their best players.
I mean, if you surround, let's pretend they don't play an actual center. Let's put like a 3, 4, and 5 of DeMar and LeBron and AD. To me, that's beautiful. I don't mind that fit at all. LeBron shoots just fine. And like all those guys can post up, like DeMar creates his own shot. Also, who cares? DeMar's making 19 footers. Doesn't bother me at all. I think you just need like Austin Reeves would be in that final closing lineup. Then they're just like one spot up shooter short. And by the way, those guys are available. Gary Trent, make good contract. Malik Beasley, come on back. Just like any of these shooters out there. Luke Kennard, go to the Lakers and take wide open 3-pointers. Dare, that's my challenge. Luke Kennard, dare. Go sign with the Lakers, buddy.
Are you saying that to try to manifest it? What's up with that?
I would be happy to retain Luke Kennard on whatever contract. I mean, as every player signs, and now Buddy Hield's going to the Warriors for cheap. As every player signs, I assume Zach Kleiman is like, hey, Luke, you see this? There's no money out there. Just take the small deal. And I
dry here.
I mean, like, again, I'm not a capologist. I don't have my own spreadsheet, but it seems like we're something like $6 to $7 million away from the luxury tax. That is cheap for Luke Kennard, and that is a huge pay cut. Would he take that? I don't know. But what else is out there for him?
Yeah.
But as far as am I trying to pressure him to go? Here's where I'm at, and here's where I've been at for a long time on this podcast. With a team that has John Morant, Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, Vince Williams Jr., and has needs otherwise on the roster, like, why do we need to pay Luke Kennard $10 million a year?
Good question.
Why is Luke Kennard a better option than Derek Jones Jr., Najee Marshall, Kyle Anderson, Jalen Smith, Gogo Batadze, Mo Wagner, Andre Drummond, DeAnthony Melton, like Buddy Hield? How is Luke Kennard a better option than all those guys? Outside, I don't know. He's good for the locker room, maybe. Provide spacing. But anyways, that was a lot of Luke Kennard talk. Andrew, let's take a quick break, and then we'll wrap up our rankings of the Western Conference. Underdog Fantasy is a unique fantasy gaming experience where you can play fantasy sports for cash. I've been using it for almost a year and a half. They have every single sport, including soccer and the WNBA. I use it mainly for the NBA and NFL. If you sign up for Underdog Fantasy using my promo code FBBF, Underdog will match your opening deposit up to $250 and also give you a free pick. So if you want to try out Underdog, use that promo code. It's a great time to do so. Remember, FBBF, or click the link in this episode's description. All right, Andrew, our way too early power rankings of the Western Conference. You have the Thunder first. So you're Thunder first, Nuggets second, Timberwolves third, Mavericks fourth. I had the same top four. Then you went Kings, Grizzlies, Pelicans, Suns, Lakers. I didn't share my thoughts yet. I had Thunder, Mavericks, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Grizzlies, Suns, my top six. I'm maybe going to just like cop out. I have like the Kings, Pelicans, and Lakers all like, yeah, all right. That's my, let's just, for the sake of this exercise, let's say that's my 7 through 9.
Okay.
So we're basically agreed there.
Yeah.
I do think teams might be sleeping, or the NBA media sphere right now could be sleeping on the Warriors.
Okay.
Obviously, Steph and Draymond a year older, and they're ancient.
Yeah.
Replacing Klay Thompson with DeAnthony Melton, Kyle Anderson, and Buddy Hield is a swindle. That's amazing. I think that's amazing.
Amazing. I don't know if it's amazing. I mean, it's what I think DeAnthony Melton's health is pretty crucial.
Let's pretend DeAnthony Melton is fine. He obviously missed the last like 50 games of the year with a back thing. Not great. He clearly is betting on himself because of the 1-year contract. I mean, he took the full MLE from the Warriors, but the 1-year deal says, listen, if I get back out there, John Hollinger's boards rankings have me valued at $26 million a year. So I'm going to play great alongside Steph Curry. And I'm going to rebuild my value that way. But all right, I'm just saying, imagine he's healthy.
Yeah. I think he is helpful for them for sure. What's like the hierarchy?
Don't know.
Golden State now.
I tried to put a depth chart together. I might even be missing players because I didn't even look at the roster. All right, they're starting. Here's the weirdness. And here's the weirdness about them signing Kyle Anderson. Like, they got too many bigs. Like, Kyle Anderson needs to play the 4.
Yeah.
And they have Andrew Wiggins. My thought is, does this signal an Andrew Wiggins trade? Are they going to trade Andrew Wiggins for some kind of shooting guard? I mean, Andrew Wiggins for Zach LaVine? Apparently they already turned that down. But
gross.
Right now, let's say they start Steph, Andrew Wiggins, Kuminga, and Draymond.
Yeah.
And then you got to pick between Podziemski or Buddy Hield or DeAnthony Melton at your 2. Mm-hmm. Let's just say Buddy Hield starts just to replicate no defense, all shooting Klay. Okay. Your bench is outrageous with hustle defense guys like Pods and Melton and Gary Payton 2 and Kyle Anderson. Like, That's nuts. And then you have Kevon Looney, Trace Jackson Davis. I don't know how it all fits. Moses Moody. The roster is weird, but honestly, it's just pure grit and grind plus Steph, where it's just all hustle school. Like it's second effort guys. Maybe Wiggins' jumper will come back, but he's like a multiple effort defender. He's a good rebounder. All these guys, like it's weird to look at the Warriors and be like, offense is the question, which is a strange place to be. So I'm very into, and of course I'm too biased to speak rationally about it, but because I'm like, those are just key role players that in my mind fit great. Like if you get the rebounding down, I mean, Kuminga, Draymond, Kyle Anderson, plus like Melton and Curry, that's awesome. And then like, I don't know. For me, that's going to be the weirdest lineups. And it's going to, in my brain, it works. But I understand if the NBA at large isn't ready for it yet.
I would have been ready for it 3 years ago, I guess would be what I would say.
Yeah.
They also traded for Lindy Waters III. Shout out to Lindy Waters, who they apparently...
Sorry for forgetting to include him in my depth chart.
Another second effort guy. I'm not ready to go there yet.
Okay.
I'm going to put the Rockets at 10th.
Rockets at 10th. I like it.
I think the Rockets are going to take another step forward. I like a lot of their young guys, and I think they really figured stuff out with their defense last year. I think Reed Shepherd comes in is going to help them as a shooter right away off the bench, which is something that they needed pretty desperately. And they won 41 games last year. I think they're primed to make another jump and get to like the 48-ish wins and get into the play-in game. And so I like this Rockets team. I think Şengün is awesome. I think Jabari Smith, who is still, I don't even know if did he turn 21 yet? Yeah, he did. He turned 21 in May. He's still crazy young and is kind of like the perfect guy next to Şengün if it all clicks.
Yeah.
So I really like that. And then I think Fred VanVleet is obviously still a winning player, and I don't know what to do with the Jalen Green stuff, and I don't know that they know what to do with him either. We haven't really.
I think
I haven't heard a peep about an extension.
I heard the peep I heard, which is I don't even remember where I heard this or someone told me this, is just a little hesitation about that being the guy you drop a huge extension to, being like, is that who we?
Oh yeah.
I mean, every team is like, oh yeah, Scotty Barnes, here's $50 million a year. You're our guy, and I think the Rockets are hesitant to be like, is that our guy?
Or even a Şengün extension hadn't happened yet.
I mean, that's another one where it's like, what's your ceiling? Şengün is a Sabonis type player where it's like, that can get you 50 wins. That might get you a 2 seed in the regular season if he's one of your key cogs, one of your best players. But is that a formula for winning a title? I don't know. And maybe the Rockets don't have to worry about that right now. Like, just enjoy the ride, win a bunch of games. I'm a little lower on the Rockets. I'm not going to be surprised if the Rockets are good. I'm not going to be surprised if the Rockets finish, like 5th or 4th or something. But I am more hesitant on like the idea of, all right, you went from 30 wins to 40 wins, now 40 to like a natural improvement. For me, it's like, no, going from 30 to 40 way easier than going from 40 to 48 or something. And so I don't know. I think the West is just too stacked, and I still maybe trust some of the existing teams. Like I would take the Clippers next. I think the Clippers, you lost Paul George. You brought in Derek Jones Jr. and Nick Batum and a bunch of non-shooters, Chris Dunn, Mo Bamba, Kevin Porter Jr. Don't love it. Kawhi has to be healthy again. How do all these players fit alongside? Zubac is one of your best players, and like you brought in more non-shooters to be around him. And it's just like, I don't get it totally. I do think they have a willingness to try to be competitive, and that will push them. So like, if they finish they have a great regular season, not gonna be surprised. I think they're still in that clump, but I'm for the sake of this exercise, I have them at 11th. Who's your 11th team?
I've got Rockets 10th, Clippers 11th, Warriors 12th.
Okay. That's basically same ballpark. What I'm thinking. I will put. I
was just gonna say the Clippers. I just don't understand like their willingness to bring back Kevin Porter Jr. into the NBA. And
they're also looking into Miles Bridges.
They're looking at Miles Bridges. They're like collecting all these like problematic guys like Josh. Oh, come on down, Kai Jones. Come on down.
There's been there's been guys, and there's like, there's always been guys who there's like, it doesn't even get out, where they're like, this guy got arrested for something, or this guy, there was stories of like domestic violence. And there's been teams who are like, that's why that guy left, by the way. Like, anybody, that's why this team didn't want him. But the Clippers are bringing in guys who like faced actual legal punishment. Yeah. We're not talking about rumors and innuendos. We're talking about the legal system. Yep. Finding culpability. And it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll just never understand it. Maybe I'll never be that competitive where I'm like, no, I don't want to win that way. Like, I don't care about the basketball product, like I know. There's other avenues to get good. This is my anti-tanking argument also. Like, tanking, people will say, worked great for the Thunder, who we have as the best team in the Western Conference. My argument remains, there were other avenues to get this good. You got Shea and Jalen Williams not through tanking. You got Josh Giddey through tanking. And so it's like, there's other and Chet, of course. You guys winning the lottery, whatever it was, 20% chance, 28% chance of having a top 2 pick that year. Like, that worked out. I also believe Sam Presti could have used everything he got from the Paul George trade to build the same winner without going through it. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. There are multiple avenues to victory. I would like to choose the one that doesn't involve domestic violence, but that's my hot take.
Well, and when has that ever been a real avenue of like, hey, listen, we know these guys are problematic, but they have won championships when you put them all together. So like,
right.
we just have to collect them all.
And also, we don't want to go in the second apron for Paul George, but Miles Bridges. Like, you're telling me Miles Bridges is not young. Like, let's just talk about the basketball part of Miles Bridges. Like, I mean, I guess he is kind of young, but like, he missed a whole year. Maybe you could say he's going to be, I don't know. I would bet on the superb genetics of Paul George and whatever he's doing to his body, where it doesn't look like he's aging. I mean, maybe Miles Bridges will, like, but he is so based on athleticism to me, where it's like, I don't know how that game's going to age. Is it going to age? Are the next 4 years of Miles Bridges better than the next 4 years of Paul George? I don't know. Maybe I'm off there because there's basically almost a decade of difference in the ages, but still, I believe in Paul George.
Yeah. Also, I just wouldn't want people like Miles Bridges in the locker room.
Of course.
Just flat out. Just like
flat out. Also, everyone keeps talking about like, oh, they're opening the new arena. You got to have this for the Intuit Dome. It's like, you want to have multiple domestic violence guys on your team to open the Intuit Dome? You want like protesters? That's been the dream all these years of having your own building. Let's move on. We've left the Spurs, the Trailblazers, and the Jazz as the bottom 3.
Yeah. I think I would go. I think that's the order I'd go. Spurs, Blazers, Jazz. I think the Jazz, and this is also a part of this. Like, the Kings could get in on marketing. I think somebody's probably going to get him. And they're going to have to pay a lot. And if you're Utah needs to pick a direction. And I think this is the direction they need to go. Like, I just don't think that they're going to be able to, with their assets and everything, trade their way up into the middle of the Western Conference. I don't think that they, like, who would you say of their young guys, they're like, oh, this is the guy I feel most confident in as like being like certainly a starter on a very good team.
Right.
Like, I just don't know who that is.
Well, so they've been in a weird spot, of course, because of Marketing and Will Hardy, they end up winning too many games, and it's been 2 straight seasons where they're like, let's shut it down. Let's let's not chase
to keep their pick. Yeah,
so they had
to do that.
And because of that, they keep ending up with these like mediocre picks. And again, pro tanking people could be like, that's the argument why you shouldn't try to win. But like, right. I agree with you. Despite the fact that their summer league roster is absolutely stacked, like their summer league roster is it's all these high draft pedigree guys, Keontae George and like Bryce Sensabaugh, and then the guys they got this year, Cody Williams and like Filipowski and Isaiah Collier, and then Walker Kessler's on there. Our guy Kenneth Lofton Jr.'s on there. I mean, this is, dude, up and down the roster. This is what Jason Preston, who's like a G League scorer, like up and down the roster. The Jazz have this monster summer league team. By the way, the Grizzlies play them on Monday. We get to see, I mean, I hope all these guys play like Edie 7'4", 7'5" in shoes against Kenneth Lofton Jr. 6'4", 6'5" in shoes. Like we might get that showdown on Monday. I am ecstatic. But anyways, you're right. If this Jazz team wanted to win, they could be pretty good, and maybe maybe Taylor Hendricks pops, who's also on the summer league team, maybe, I don't know, County George pops. And like, you have decent players like Colin Sexton. Why won't anyone get Colin Sexton, who's a really good scorer? But like, I don't know what the Jazz are doing. And so I'm with you where I just put them at the bottom of the West. Cause it's like, I think Danny Ainge maybe wants to tank hard. He wants to get it on the Ace Bailey Cooper Flag stuff. And so they're just a mystery. Are they going to be 500 again in January and then pull the plug? Yeah. They're a huge mystery to me. The Spurs. All right. Wembanyama looked like one of the best players in the NBA when the season ended. What have they done with the talent around him? I don't know. Like they drafted a non-shooter in Stephon Castle, and like he already got Sohan, and like that's kind of gross. And you brought in the ghost of Chris Paul to, I guess, teach hopefully Trey Jones how to play basketball.
Year one, Chris Paul. It always works.
Until last year, it ended. The war, like his
yeah, that's true.
The streak ended of every team he was going to having a better record than the previous season, and every team he leaves having a worse record. That streak snapped last year.
Maybe it's back though.
Yeah, the Trailblazers are the weird team where I think we all pencil them in to be one of the worst teams in the West just because it's so competitive. Like we've spelled out, all the other teams are more optimistic, but like they have talent, and what are they doing? And there's talent, I feel like, in Anthony Simons, Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson, Jeremy Grant, Ayton squad. Obviously, it was bad, but then you add to that Donovan Clingan and Denny Avdia, and it's like, I don't know if they're going to sit at the bottom of the West. They just might because everybody else is good, but they're more of a team I don't know what to make of, so I have more confidence in like the other 12 teams that we picked to finish ahead of them. What do you have any other which one of those Spurs, Blazers, Jazz surprised us? Is it just the Spurs? Because like Wemby is a alien.
Yeah, and I think they want to slow play it. I think they want to develop these guys and just see who's good and wait to go after it. Now they could fast forward this whole thing and them being the team that trades for Markkanen. But still, I just don't know where exactly that puts you in the West. It's just there's no guarantees that gets you anywhere. Yeah. And so I would rather slow play it, especially with the upcoming draft, the way that it is. This is where I'd want to be if I was San Antonio. Like I want to be in position to get a top 5 pick in this next draft. Because if you pick a Wemby with like a real talent, like that's how you go from 13th in the West to 5th in the West, is if you pair him with like real talent.
I mean, the interesting part's going to be we're already getting teams signing up for the lottery in July, it seems like, and I don't know, maybe there's 4 guys in this year's draft. There's like, obviously there's the 2 at the top, and there's a lot of guys, people like that guy would have gone number 1 this year, even if he was a year away, like people would have taken him. But like you see teams lining up, maybe the Trailblazers do it again. In the Eastern Conference, of course, the Wizards and the Nets are doing it. Maybe the Bulls are doing it. Maybe the Pistons are doing it. There's gonna be some bad teams. Maybe the Hornets are doing it. They have very little talent. Like, where would the Blazers be in the East if you had, again, Anthony Simons, Shaden Sharp, also other guy like Tybal and Kamara, and like they have useful guys. Yeah. Jeremy Grant, Donovan Clingan. Like it seems like they could. Why aren't they better than or as good as the Hawks? I mean, why can't they be last year's Bulls and win 37 games in the?
They could be the Bulls.
Okay.
I don't know if they, and maybe this is just insane, but I don't think they have a player. This is their problem. Is like they don't have a player that's as good as Trae Young on their team.
Sure. No, yeah, that makes sense.
And so they don't have any of they have like great supporting talent that if they had a top end talent guy, you could convince yourself that they could maybe get to like 9th or 10th.
Yeah. They have like 5 third or fourth best players or something. All right. So thank you, Andrew, for coming on. I feel like this was a fun, useful exercise. To recap, it seems like we're of a similar mind. Maybe tier 1, Thunder, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Mavericks. Those teams are pretty good. Then there's a clump. I don't know how far this clump goes for you. Like for me, it's kind of like the Grizzlies are in there. Grizzlies, Pelicans, Suns, Kings. I have the Lakers kind of in that too.
Yeah.
And then we start getting to like maybe Warriors, Clippers, Rockets. Yeah. And then we're confused about the bottom of the West. You know, it seems like the Jazz, Spurs, Rockets. Jazz, Spurs, and who's my final team?
You can say Spaz. That's okay.
Yeah, the Spaz. Trailblazers. Yeah, the Spurs, Jazz, Trailblazers going to be maybe the 3 worst, just because we're not sure how they end up better than the top 12 teams. Of course, injuries will dictate a lot. You know, whoever wins, whichever team stays healthy might just be the one that finishes at the top of the West. Anyways. Andrew, again, thanks for hanging out for a long time. You guys go check out the Athletics NBA show. If you want to know more about the Thunder, go listen to the Down to Dunk podcast. And Andrew, I'll see you next week in Vegas, and I look forward to you coming on again sometime.
Thank you, Keith.